What's up, YouTube? It's Metaphys Art. I'm coming at you guys with a deck profile for the new Metaphys. With their new support, they're a whole lot better, a little bit faster, a lot more consistent. It's harder to beat them if you're playing the right cards. I've been play testing a couple different cards inside of my old build on YGOpro, and I just feel like pure Metaphys is the way to go. I don't think you should be mixing it with too many other archetypes, because I don't see any other archetypes that are actually super duper good and stupendous with Metaphys. So Metaphys pure is the way I go. I don't know about everybody else. Recently, I've been playing a whole lot of dinosaur players, so I know that this deck can play over dinosaurs really well, especially if you use arrival rivals during the battle phase, and you have your field spell out. That's probably a card I'm going to add into here and take out, probably trade in. But let's just jump right into the deck profile. Okay, for the main deck, I'm going to get the cards that really don't matter if you have them in there or not out the way, and then we can do other cards. So first, it's Metaphys Arm Dragon. Doesn't matter if you have them in here or not. It's just a vanilla and it's just a name. It's a level 7, which means it's good for Sacred Sword of the 7 stars. You banish it, you banish Metaphys name, and that actually starts activating effects from other cards. So I just play it just because. You don't have to play it. And then the other card I play that other Metaphys players probably don't play is Metaphys Executor. A lot of Metaphys players don't play this card, but at the same time, people think it's hard to summon. It's kind of not. As long as you can, I'm gonna say recoup what you have. So Metaphys Executor basically is the boss monster. Is supposed to be the boss monster of the deck, and Metaphys Executor has the effect that it can't be destroyed or banished by card effects, which makes it really, really good. And then on top of that, it when your opponent has more monsters than you do, or more cards in general on their field than you do, Metaphys Executor can special summon a Metaphys monster that's banished to the field, although it has the same clause as most Metaphys cards do, that when you summon that monster, it's banished at the end of the next turn. So just keep that in mind. Next, we'll talk about the 3-ofs. So I play triple Tyrant Dragon. Triple Metaphys Tyrant is iffy. You can run 2 or 3. I don't think either is correct or incorrect. I don't think 3 is incorrect. I don't think 2 is incorrect. I think you can run it either or. Most people run it at 2 because of the fact that it recycles itself when it's banished. But I have this thing where I'm like, if Tyrant Dragon's in my hand, I have a giant beat stick to rely on at some point, because you can just use arrivals during your battle phase and then slam down a Tyrant Dragon with Hippo Shinigami on the field, and you have a 3400 beat stick, and that's pretty big. Most monsters aren't big enough to battle around that, and most monsters, with the exception of the dinosaur monster, Superconductor, is probably already phasing off the field by the time you get to it. So its special effect that when it's banished during the following standby phase, you get to special summon a Metaphys monster directly from your hand. Is actually comes in handy because it wipes your opponent's setup. So it's like, if your opponent U-boarded you, you can just like, and you had a way to get to the Daedalus in your hand, then you go into Tyrant Dragon and just summon the Daedalus, and it wipes all the U-board out because they're all special summon monsters. You basically won the game because of the fact that the U-board, Gokis, it's difficult for Gokis to recover after you wipe their U-board, especially if you banish their entire U-board. So their entire U-board's banished, they'll probably just scoop, which has been happening to me a lot when I play Gokis. So that's why I play 3 of that. It's actually a pretty important card. Triple Nepthys. Nepthys is the Rhoda. When it's banished, the following standby phase, it searches any Metaphys card that spells, traps, and monsters. Also, when it's summoned by a Metaphys monster effect, it gains the ability to banish all set spell and traps on the field. That actually comes in handy when you're playing Paleo. And I ran into this weird deck not too long ago. It was Paleo Phantasm Spiral. Oh my gosh, that deck's a pain in the neck. It really is. It's a real pain in the neck. It's almost as much of a pain in the neck as regular Paleo Frog. And that, like, these are decks that I hate, by the way, that I don't like playing against. But this deck seems to do fairly well against the decks that I really don't like playing against. So Nepthys is really good in the sense that it takes care of the set back row, which can help a lot against random rogue decks like Paleo, and especially it helps against Altergeist. Altergeist gets their set cards banished. They kind of get reamed for that, so it's crazy. Especially if you have the Metaphys factor out on the field, because they can't activate the trap cards in response to you summoning the Metaphys Nepthys with the monster effect. So that part. Next, Metaphys Daedalus. This is the most powerful card in the deck. Honestly, it's the most powerful card, the most useful card in the deck, because the fact that Metaphys Daedalus says that it banishes all special summon monsters when it is summoned by a Metaphys monster effect. Also, it has the ability to banish a Metaphys card during the following standby phase that it was banished. So that actually helps you a lot, because you'll banish Metaphys Ascension and probably get it back later on. I'm gonna show you guys how that actually works, and that just makes for a crazy deck in my opinion. Like, Metaphys Daedalus is a really good card. Last but not least, you have the soul of the deck. This is one of your startup cards. You need Metaphys Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a tuner. It has the ability to mill 3 cards. When it mills the 3 cards, it has the effect of being able to gain 300 attack for every Metaphys card that was milled and banished by its effect. Then it has the effect that says that if it deals damage to your opponent, you are able to special summon a Metaphys monster from your deck. But as almost all of the Metaphys effects that does that, during the next end phase, that Metaphys monster is banished. So it's cool. That's cool and everything. But this Metaphys Ragnarok actually just works out to be really good, because if it gets its max attack of 2400 and it beats over a smaller monster, you can get the Decoy Dragon out, which is the new support, and start up a new combo from there. But moving on past that, Metaphys Decoy Dragon is one of the new support cards. This card is beast, and having two or even all 3 of them on the field at the same time makes it so it's hard for your opponent to react to this. Because I was playing somebody and they were playing all the new cyber support. So when all that new cyber comes out, the rest of it does. That deck's gonna be a problem. Because if Cyber's Dragon doesn't get an errata to it, and it doesn't get and it stays at 1, that card's an issue with the effect that it can bounce stuff. There's a combination where they can negate the effect of a monster on the field, which negates the effects of the other copies of that same monster on the field. It's too much stuff that they can do, like with that deck, plus the Salomon Great stuff in the deck. Like, they were playing a combination of the two, and it was crazy. It's really hard to deal with. So Metaphys Decoy Dragon is albeit though a great card, because as a monster, when your monsters get attacked, it can banish itself and summon a Metaphys monster that's either in the graveyard or that's banished. And if it does, that monster gets its effect. So you can summon Daedalus from grave with its effect to banish all special summon monsters. You can summon Nepthys from grave with its effect to banish all set spells and traps. Or you can summon Tyrant Dragon with its ability to not be affected by traps and its ability to attack twice in a row. So it's just a whole lot that you can do with the Metaphys Decoy Dragon. I think it's a great card because of that. Next, after you finish your Metaphys, I run the Lightray Sorcerer. The reason why I run the Lightray Sorcerer is it gets your light monsters back while banishing monsters. It's also a 2800 beat stick while you have Hypno Shinigami on the field. It's just an all-around good card. You can special summon it simply by having 3 light monsters banished, which you are almost guaranteed always to have three or so monsters banished, 3 or so light monsters banished, because most of this deck is made out of light monsters. And to end my Lightray package, I run triple Lightray Grepher. I've seen people not run Lightray Grepher at all and run Luna. I think Lightray Grepher is the better choice. It's just like having a Darkray Grepher or having a Darkray Grepher or Armageddon Knight, except you get to banish. You know what I mean? The light monster that you're trying to banish, and you get to banish instead of sending to the grave. So I think that's really, really important when it comes to the deck as a whole, because of the fact that banishing your light monsters is actually super duper important. I'm actually thinking about getting Constellar Belt, so your opponent also playing Constellar Belt is an option in this deck. So all your light monsters effects can't be negated anyway, or get negated or responded to anyway. So that's actually a good idea as well. Even though everybody's playing Nightmare Phoenix to try to stop you from doing stuff like that. Honest is a great card in my opinion. It's especially useful in this deck. Like I said, most of the cards in it is light, so anytime your opponent attacks a monster the ability to make sure that monster doesn't get destroyed, and then possibly activate Ragnarok's effect during your opponent's turn, so it banishes all your opponent's special summon monsters during their turn. So your turn, you have more of a leeway to OTK. That's actually pretty impressive. And then last but not least, I hit off with the one Necrophase. I think Necrophase is pretty important as well in the deck. As soon as you summon Necrophase just basically banishes all the cards, the top 5 cards of your deck, and then it gains nets you advantage with this, specifically with the Metaphys cards if you're banishing Metaphys cards from the top of your deck. I like Necrophase a lot for its effect. That does it for the monsters. I'm pretty sure it's about 24 of them because there's 46 cards in total in this deck. Let's move on to the spell cards. So we got spells, and the first spell, it's the most important spell in the deck in my opinion, is Metaphys Factor. You want to see this in your first hand as quickly. You need to see this fast, like super fast. Basically, Metaphys Factor, you're actually playing 9 copies of Metaphys Factor without even playing Terraforming. So if you guys decided that you wanted to play Terraforming, you'd actually be playing 11 copies of Metaphys Factor. I'll explain why in a second. But Metaphys Factor basically makes it so your opponent cannot respond to your Metaphys monsters effects when they go off. So all your Metaphys monster effects will go off without being hand trapped or being negated somehow, because they can't chain to the card because of Metaphys Factor. Also, this allows you to make sure that you can play your level 5 and higher Metaphys monsters without tributing, and all it costs is that the end of the next standby or the end of the next turn that monster gets banished, which again is not a big deal because of the fact that ultimately that means during your opponent's turn it gets banished, then that following standby phase you get the effect. It's all for your benefit. It's all advantage in my opinion, and I run 3. There's a lot of people that only run 2, and I think that's an incorrect thing to do. Next is Ace of Metaphys. I run Ace of Metaphys at 3. I've seen people run it at 2. I've seen people run it at 1. Ace of Metaphys needs to be ran at 2 to 3 copies because of the fact that it banishes Metaphys cards for you. It banishes the cards for you, and then it helps you dig deeper in your deck. Then it has effects that during your opponent's turn, it shifts all the cards. It changes cards' battle position. So if they don't have all link monsters, it's just like they can't attack with anything but their link monsters. Or if they have, or if it's during your turn, they lose all the monsters lose 500 attack and defense. And sometimes that comes in handy for your bigger monsters to be able to beat over something that's bigger than them. Like it's come in handy several times when I'm playing against somebody and I want to use my Metaphys to get rid of what is that card called? The Ultimate Conductor. Like I said, I've been playing. It's for some reason I've been running into a whole lot of dinosaur players, but it runs in really handy, like getting rid of the Ultimate Conductor Tyrant, because you lower it to 300, then you have your Hippo Shinigami out on the field, and that, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that Ultimate Conductor is a dark monster, so you lower it another 500. Let me make sure I'm not telling you guys lies right quick. I'm pretty sure though that it is a dark. No, it's a light. So it gets boosted by Hippo Shinigami. You guys gotta watch that, but it loses to 500. It's not impossible to get over, and you'll just end up getting over it using Honest anyway. So I think Ace of Metaphys is very necessary at 3. The next card that's probably necessary at 3, not even probably, it's definitely necessary at 3, is Gold Sark. I find that Gold Sark is absolutely necessary in the deck. Banishing your cards, then knowing that you're going to get it back 2 turns later. This deck has so much of a grind game that you'll probably last those 2 turns. But Gold Sark is just such an important card in this deck, and if you guys don't have ultra rare copies, you might want to start searching now with the Thunder Dragons archetype coming out, because you're going to need them for them too. But Gold Sarcophagus is such a good card. Being able to banish 1 card from your deck face up, and then during your second standby phase you get the card. But this card, in combination with any Metaphys card, with the exception of Dimension and Factor, basically nets you an effect of some kind. So this is actually pretty important. And with Necroface, it dumps 5 cards automatically, so you'll end up luck milling probably 2 or 3 Metaphys cards, because that's how many. There's so many names in here, it doesn't make sense. Sacred Sword of 7 stars is my draw power, besides trade-in. Sacred Sword of 7 stars is like trade-in, except for the fact that it banishes the level 7 monster from the field or from the hand. And that's actually pretty dope when you think about it, because you can banish the Daedalus. The Daedalus will either gain its effect the following standby phase, or it'll sit there for the Decoy Dragon to activate its effect later on. Either way, it's ash bait, and it's also a way to get to dig 2 cards deeper into your deck. So go figure. Like I said, I might take the trade-ins out and just make Arrival Rivals a permanent part of this deck, because Arrival Rivals is so good in this deck. Like the ability to just sit here and go, okay, attack Arrival Rivals, attack with Tyrant Dragon, and then go, if it's a Nepthys and a Tyrant Dragon on the field, you can go into Hope Harbinger Dragon, or you can go into Hippo Shinigami at the end of the turn. Like it's too good. It's too good to pass up. But trade in, dig 2 cards deeper in your deck. I don't think I need to explain that a whole bunch. The other spell cards I play is Photon Sanctuary. 2 tokens. Most of your monsters are light monsters anyway, so again, it doesn't matter. Being able to special summon isn't really that hard, because most of the monsters in this deck is light monsters anyway. And then on top of that, this is just a free Hippo Shinigami. So getting into this card is good or not good, just depends on what's going on. My extra deck isn't very complete because of the fact that I don't actually know what else to play in the extra deck, because you don't necessarily need your extra deck. But Photon Sanctuary is just really good for right now in the deck, specifically for the Hippo Shinigami. And then the only card left is the Dimensional Fisher. because I can only play one. I really wish that you could play more than one of this card. Like OCG has it at 2, so I really wish you could play this at more than one, because this card's so flipping good in this deck. The faster you see this card, the better. I don't play Left Arm Offering because I don't want to give up my entire hand to go searching for it, but this card's just mad important. So keep that in mind. I really think this card should come off the ban list, just because it would give Metaphys a time to shine. And then let's go into traps. So yeah, last but not least, the traps. And the new trap, I play 3 of it. It's Metaphys Ascension. This card provides a whole new level of consistency for the deck. As a trap card, you pitch a Metaphys to the graveyard, you banish a Metaphys card, you draw a card from your deck. Like, that's insane. That's getting rid of 3 cards for the price of 1, and fueling your for your Metaphys factor, or your Metaphys Executor. But this also is has the ability that when it's banished, you can search any Metaphys card in your deck, and that's the same turn. So Nepthys searches the following standby phase, but this searches as soon as it's banished. And the crazy thing about it is, since you play 3 of these and 3 Nepthys, you play 6 extra copies of all your Metaphys cards. So it's like, or all your Metaphys monsters and all your Metaphys cards in general. So this card actually provides a level of consistency to the deck that that'll burn out your opponent. Like, the card that really hurts this deck really bad is Droll, but like, there's so much ash bait in this deck that it's hard to stop you from doing anything. Then you got Metaphys Dimension at 2. You want to see this card, you don't need to see it often. You basically just play an extra copy just in case your opponent gets rid of the first copy. But Metaphys Dimension is one of those cards where it's like, you can have it or you don't have to have it. Basically, whenever a Metaphys monster is banished, you basically get to banish a card on your opponent's side of the field. Doesn't matter if it's face up or not. And then on top of that, this card actually allows you to summon a monster, a banished Metaphys monster, when your opponent special summons a monster. So this card actually helps you maintain field presence and helps you get around a couple different things. That's why your opponent probably will try to come at this with like a Twin Twister or something, along with your Metaphys factor. It's one of those cards that just like hurt to keep on the field. And then last but not least, the last trap card we run is the Macrocosmos. I think everybody knows what this does. Any card that goes to the graveyard goes to the is banished instead. Basically, it's really good in this deck for no apparent reason, because all you want to do is banish your cards. And that does it for the main deck. Sorry about all the beeping and the rumbling in the background, guys. It's my clothes getting washed. Last but not least, we'll go into the extra. So like I was saying, my extra deck's pretty small. I'm running 2 Metaphys Horse. Metaphys Horse is just beast in this deck now that we have Decoy Dragon, because Decoy Dragon is a because Metaphys Decoy Dragon is a pendulum monster. This card gets the effect to make your opponent give you a card while also being able to basically infinite impermanence or Veiler a card on the field permanently until that card gets removed from the field. So you can do that for the floodgates, like lose 1 turn, or you can do that for floodgates like lose 1 turn, like mistake, like what's the other card I'm looking for? Anti-spell fragrance. You can do that for those cards, and then on top of that, you'll have like a 2800 beat stick if Hippo Shenanigans on the field, or you'll have your opponent's Borload Dragon or something like that. You'll take it away from them if you've gotten rid of most of the cards on the field already. Bull Sword is actually the ideal card that to make them, force them to have to give you, but you can force them easily just by blowing up most of their field and then just going, okay, horse at the main phase 2, and then making them give you their strongest card. It's actually a really good strategy. Cyframe Lord Omega, because it's Cyframe Lord Omega. It's a great card. Angel of Zera, because Angel of Zera is actually really good in this deck. Anytime this card's banished, the following standby phase, it special summons itself, which is bull. And then it gains 100 attack for every banished card that your opponent has. And since you have a necro, a necro face, and you have the ability to just continuously banish cards, this card actually does a whole bunch of damage, really bad. It's a really good card for no apparent reason. I like it a lot. This could also be used in combination with like a Topologic Trisbania, and just keep on summoning itself back and banishing all set spells and traps. It's actually it's a really good card. It's just a good card all around. One Hope Harbinger Dragon, because Hope Harbinger Dragon stops spells. I felt like I needed something to help me with the Sky Striker matchup. Hope Harbinger Dragon kind of does that. Because it'll go like, okay, you play a spell and I don't like the spell that you're playing, I just negate it. It's a great card because of that. Then you got Hippo Shinigami. I play 3 copies of him, or 2 copies of him. I feel like he's mad important. If like a Greffer's in the graveyard, I get my Greffer back. If my Sorcerer ends up in the graveyard somehow, I get my Sorcerer back. It's all good. And then the Underclock Taker, because who doesn't play an Underclock Taker if they have absolute free space in their deck? So the only thing I would suggest, because this is what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards in the extra deck. It says I have 15 cards in my extra deck on Pro, and that's because of the fact that I play a whole bunch of random cards just to play them. But I would suggest like maybe a Summon Sorceress and a worm, one worm monster that could get you into Summon Sorcerers. They need to come out with more worm support, in my opinion, because there's not enough. But enough because True Draco is a whole worm archetype, but that's devastated. You really can't count on it. So I just feel like certain cards deserve link monsters, and I think Metaphys is one of them, because Metaphys is actually good enough to have at least a decent link to. So that's it for the extra deck. I guess to close out the video, you guys, I hear tell there's a join button now. Probably not on smaller YouTubes. So I guess I gotta get bigger. So I'm gonna start trying to do my best to provide more deck profiles. Maybe you guys can suggest some other content that you guys might want to see on this channel. But particularly, this channel is mostly just for deck profiles that people that are obscure to people, because nobody concentrates on table 500 decks. This channel kind of does. So Metaphys, I think, though, is a great rogue option, especially in this current format with what we have. We'll see what the new ban list gets us, and we'll go from there. But for right now, I think this deck is really good. It plays well, plays through most things, and it's a great grinding deck. It just has to go first. That's the only problem. I haven't seen a build of this that that wins going second, but you kind of have to go first. If you don't, you might as well scoop, because well, actually that's a lie. You can win going second if your Metaphys deck is geared towards swarming the field, but and there's ways to make it geared towards swarming the field, trust me. But the 60 card variant can do that really easily, more easily than the 40-ish card variant. So I'd suggest playing around with the deck, because remember, this deck is just how I play it. It doesn't necessarily have to be how you play it. It's a template for any Metaphys player to work around, change things to fit their playstyle. My playstyle just happens to be netting as much advantage as I can and field presence as I can. So I tend to use certain cards to attempt to do that. Like I said, I'm probably going to take out trade in for Arrival Rivals because I really feel like that is a really good card in this deck. And that's about it, guys. It's the Nivius Art signing out. Don't forget to like, to comment, and subscribe, and help me get to the amount of followers I need. So hopefully, when that join button comes on, you guys will want to support the channel and help the channel bring to you content that you guys want to see, because that's basically what this channel is really seeking to do. Start bringing more content that you guys want to see. Like I said, anyway, the Nivius Art out.